U.S. intelligence agency, mind control.
I will say, guys, mid. Should have just made a produced video.
I mean, this is edited to be produced.
Yeah.
This is their lazy content that they do, though. It's
No, I
just
know.
always been
I know.
reacts.
I know, but it's always been better because
This has been recommended to me every day.
Me too. Me too.
And now it's going to continue to be recommended to me, and I'm like, I've seen it.
All right.
Nation. So when it comes to an event like the Olympics, China is not known as a sporty nation. So when it comes to an event like the Olympics, where athletes compete on the highest,
I'm curious what was cut out of this.
Country that plays sport,
it would have just been normal footage, like Olympic footage.
Because, like, is this re-uploaded? Or is this the original?
No, she would have just clipped it out. She said, I think, from what I saw on Instagram, it was like 3 minutes something and 5 minutes something.
sports more would perform better than a country where the sports culture is not as strong. But in the Paris Olympics, China and the US, a very sport-dominant nation, won the same amount of gold medals. How did this happen? Well, China was able to go toe-to-toe with
what about the overall medals?
Yeah, well, that's not the real tally, you see. Americans used the wrong tally. They always have.
I'm just saying, if they tied on gold medals, what's the next best thing?
Well, this is the other thing, right? Is I don't know why Americans complain about the gold medals and the whole record tally, because America wins all the golds anyway. They're always first in the Olympics anyway, so I don't know why they complain. It's only because they put
in all competitions.
It's because they put a competitor in every single competition.
Yes, exactly. That's what you get
because
from
of one man and 5 words. And China's strategy also explains a common observation of China crushing certain sports, but falling apart when it comes to others. But before we look into the how, let's examine the.
Do people remember when I said that China wins like the first bits of the Olympics and then falls off at the end? It's almost like I know what I'm talking about.
Why? Because winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. China wanted a gold medal at the Olympics.
The Chinese culture around the Olympics and winning and sporting for the Olympics is fucking insane. It's borderline abusive. I really hope she gets into it.
The Olympics because it's the most prestigious sporting event in the world, and gold because they needed to win. You see, back in the 1980s, China had just rejoined the Olympic Committee after years of isolation, and it was only through winning that China could really prove themselves on an international stage and bring the whole nation.
I really hope she talks about how big 2008 was for China. Like, genuinely, it was the turning point for modern China.
Together, but they had a problem. Compared to other countries, China didn't have a strong sports culture. Years of political instability, economic constraints, and a lack of priority given to sports limited the availability of it to the public, which then meant that China couldn't.
I don't think you can have sport when you can't even have enough food to live. I think you need excess energy.
Exactly draw upon a big pool of athletes.
I think it's a little bit difficult while undergoing a famine to engage in sports. I think even in like aristocratic societies, people were too poor to do anything. It was the rich people. You know, that's why tennis is all white people. Why Serena Williams winning was such a big deal. It's all of these things go back to aristocracy. Golf is another big one, I imagine. Think about how much land golf requires, how much money people would need to play golf when land was everything.
Water polo.
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 Yeah, polo in general. Yep.
You need a horse.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's all these sports. Equestrian is a really good one as well. All this fancy fucking equestrian. It's just very ironic that they did it in the gardens of Marie Antoinette's summer palace. It's very, very ironic that they did that there. But like all of these sports have deep swimming. Swimming is another one. Why are all swimmers white? Look into it. It's a fucking interesting history.
Olympics. So, inspired by the Soviet Union, China adopted the approach of if you can't find elite athletes, make them. And that was the start of China's centralized sports system. This is a system where the state controls and funds everything, from identifying talent at a young age to training them up, providing them with coaches and gyms. Everything is sponsored by the state. It's a very hands-on.
China's approach to the Olympic Games, the Spartan program.
approach. But China
Taking
had to be
kids
this
from their
intentional with their
parents and
actions if they
torturing
wanted
them?
to be competitive on the world stage, because they lacked an organic sporting culture for talent to emerge at a grassroots level. If China is on one end of the spectrum in terms of their sports structure being very centralized, so influencing sports from the top down, then the US is an example of the other side of the spectrum, where sport is built from the ground up. From a young age, kids get involved with sports through their school or through
Sergeant Johnson is a
and those
Spartan,
that
right?
continue to
Yes, he's a Spartan 2, right? Spartan 1.
Spartan 1.
Yeah, Spartan 1. John's Spartan 2, right?
No, he was he's selected for the team.
Ah, okay.
But the program didn't go through with him.
I swear he had technically gone through the Spartan 1 program. I think. I'm not too certain, but John is a Spartan 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the Spartan 1 was a failure because they couldn't
They
figure
were
out a way.
testing it on normal people.
Well, also the suit
Too
power
heavy.
supply.
Yes,
They needed to carry a power supply.
Yes, because it was too heavy, it would crush them if it ran out of power, right? That's the law. So they had to genetically engineer them and steal their kids from parents and shit. I'm pretty sure that's the law. I'm not that well versed on the Halo law, to be completely honest.
play and become athletes, join elite clubs
And
or
that's the thing, is
specialized
there's
programs.
almost-
Funding usually comes from
That's what's also cool about Halo, is there's not a lot of lore spelled out to John, because why does he care? I need a weapon.
Exactly. Yeah,
You know?
I'm giving the Covenant back their bomb.
Yeah.
What's that? I was stolen from my parents? I don't give a shit. I got a job to do.
Yeah.
private sponsors, so the government does get more involved for Olympic sports, and they also fund universities, which have athletic programs, so they're also indirectly funded.
See, that makes sense. So yeah, okay. So that I was technically correct then. They did test it on normal people. That's what he was, right? So he went through that program, which is also why he's sort of in control of everything, I imagine.
There's also, though, I don't know, they probably put this in the show because they wanted to focus on this weird aspect. But there's the washouts. They form a team as well. A bunch of washouts form a team, and they're in something.
Okay.
So I want to say that the show also has a washout rebel or something.
Say it in caps.
Yeah, I haven't seen the show.
That requires caps.
I haven't seen
all
the show.
caps. I've been waiting for my friend to.
I have no interest.
Yes, fuck Master Cheeks.
Is that what they call him? Because he's got an ass?
Yeah, because he's just fucking. He took all you get in one of the episodes is just a gratuitous ass shot.
BC is now toasted, laying on his side.
Funding their athletes. Most of the time, though, in a decentralized system, the government is more hands-off, and talent emerges just from the sheer number of people that play sports. This also results in a wide pool of talent across many different disciplines.
But is there washouts in the show?
Australia.
No. There's nothing.
There is no washouts.
They do not go into the show anything in the show at all.
Is a great example
they don't talk
of a
about
system
how
that's
Stop!
somewhere in the middle.
Enough
Australia has a
tangents.
strong sports culture. Aussie kids get really involved in sports, but the Australian government is a lot more involved. They fund a lot of the sports development programs, and they're also quite targeted with where they spend their money, often prioritizing the sports Australia is strongest in. This kind of targeting, though, is way more apparent in China's centralized sports system. Because China is in control from scouting talent to sending an athlete to the Olympics, the state is able to dictate exactly which sports all these athletes are going to train in. And of course, like Australia, the Chinese government is going to aim for sports that they're the strongest in or see the highest potential in. So, what sports did China land on? This is where I get to introduce to you one man and 5 words, and you're about to see just how impactful they were in changing the course of China's sport trajectory.
All right, let's guess what the sports are. What do you reckon?
I already know.
Have you watched it? Motherfucker. Fine.
That's why I sent it to you, because it was so good.
Fine. Yes, fine. Because I didn't watch it because I wanted to save it for Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna guess weightlifting, archery, shooting, table tennis, and what's another one they're big in?
Water is
I've gone
water.
blank.
Water's wet.
Swimming?
Water is wet.
There's
Not
no way it's
swimming.
swimming.
Not swimming.
Water polo.
No.
Oh, diving. Diving. Of
Ooh.
course it's diving. Of course it's diving.
When it comes to sports, we need to recognize that a lot of the sports we play today are descended from earlier versions of sports that were played. Like table tennis originated from England in the 1880s as the upper class wanted tennis at home. So you put a net over a dining table and then bam, table tennis
my
was born.
God.
The fact that sports often
my
share
God.
similarities with each other was a key idea behind Tian Maizhou's theory of clusters. For example, if you look at how sports are played, some involve a net. So sports like table tennis, badminton, volleyball, tennis, and beach volleyball. Or maybe they're a sport that requires no net, like basketball, hockey, soccer, and handball. Or maybe instead of throwing balls, you throw hands. Or instead of throwing hands, you throw shots. Or instead of throwing shots, you throw yourself. What I showed you just then was a
That's
legitimate way
funny.
of grouping Olympic sports devised
That's
by Tian Maizhou.
That's such a funny way to describe Olympic events.
Obviously, I started getting creative with introducing them halfway through. You might have noticed, though, that we seem to be missing some sports, like maybe swimming, track and field, weightlifting, and that's because they all belong in a different category called physical sports, whereas the sports we mentioned just then are classified as skill-based sports. Aside from this non-net subcategory, China is really good at skill-based sports. In fact, weightlifting is probably the only sport in the physical category that China really dominates, and this occurrence was by design. Tian drew out 7 different ways to group different Olympic sports, and the categorization we went through just then was the most influential.
That's the thing. Weightlifting was an outlier. That's why I said no when you said weightlifting, because I knew that one is specifically their outlier.
Yeah. So weightlifting is interesting because China's really good because they're low weight. Like their small stature means that they can go for smaller categories, which means that lifting more, like if you're lifting in a 60 kilo category, 100 kilos is a big lift for you, right? You're lifting at 100 kilos. 100 kilos is fucking nothing. So if you're a 65 kilo dude lifting 200 kilos, you're probably going to win your competition. And that's not out of the picture. With pretty decent training, you can lift 200 kilos as a 65 kilo dude. Like, it's not out of the picture. So it's not like I say steroids because China has the Soviet mentality of, if you can cheat, do it. I think there might be a Chinese proverb or something, which is like, if you can cheat, essentially. And I agree. Honestly, I agree. And because I don't really give a fuck about the Olympics, I don't really care if they cheat. I want an all cheater Olympics. I don't give a shit. But like the weightlifting category is interesting because you wouldn't expect China to be there, but they fucking destroy it. I'm pretty sure China holds the world record at the moment in multiple categories, if I'm not mistaken.
Sports was huge for China because it allowed them to see where the synergies were between sports they were already good at and could expand into. For example, diving and artistic gymnastics are 2 sports China is strong in. They both also happen to fall into the same category of being difficult and artistic. Another sport in this cluster that China was weaker in at the time was artistic swimming. Artistic swimming became a priority, and China was able to transfer a lot of the coaching knowledge, experience, and routine innovations from the strong sports into developing China's artistic swimming team. This year, at the
so you
Paris
just made it
Olympics,
blurred.
China's artistic swimming team won gold for the
It is
first
a re-upload.
time. Or take a look at this year's tennis results. Zheng Qinwen won gold in the women's single tennis event, and she was not just China's first gold, but Asia's first gold in the Olympic tennis singles. China's mixed double team also won a silver, which makes China the most successful team in tennis this Olympics. And you know what? Tennis is in the same net category as table tennis and badminton too.
That's kind of interesting considering that they unpersoned a tennis player a couple of years ago. That's very interesting. Do you know why they unpersoned her? Do you know about this?
Because she was crippled by the Spartan program.
She accused a CCP member of sexual assault. So instead of dealing with the person, they protected him and unpersoned her. So that's pretty cool.
2 of China's core sports. The transferability of skills, expertise, knowledge, and even athletes in some cases within these identified clusters allowed China to more efficiently go after and achieve results within like sports. Tian's clustering theory had provided China with a direction for how they should plan for gold, and the 5-word principle executed that plan. Speaking of plans, did you guys know that when you connect to the internet on a public Wi-Fi plan, like at airports, coffee shops, or even at home, your principle, 小巧男女少, or small skilled difficult women and few, were the chosen disciplines that shouldered China's great ambitions for gold. field, and they each represent a trait or a sport. Small refers to small ball sports like table tennis and badminton. Skilled and difficult refer to sports being judged on difficulty and execution, like gymnastics and diving. Women highlights China's focus on targeting females.
I want them to bring squash back. Reinvigorate squash. Squash is cool. Squash is a cool sport. Play more squash. Fuck badminton. Actually, you know what? Fuck table tennis off. Bring squash back.
Sports, as it had less competition since it was less popular to watch female sports back then compared to the male events. Then finally, few meant less popular. Again, less popular equals less competition. China believed these categories maximize their chances for gold, and in looking at their medal counts, they were right. When we break down where China got their gold medals from, out of the 303 gold medals China has won so far in the Olympics, 219 or 72% come from 6 sports. They are diving, weightlifting, table tennis, artistic gymnastics, shooting, and badminton. 5 out of...
Are they the ones that I said? Did I fucking nail it? Except for the last one?
Tennis, artistic gymnastics,
Diving?
shooting, and badminton.
Because I definitely said shooting. I definitely said weightlifting. Did I say gymnastics? I definitely said table tennis or badminton, one of the two. And I didn't get diving. I might have gotten 3.
5 out of 6 sports here are skill-based, and all of these sports match the 5-word principle.
I said archery. That's what I said.
Decision to focus their resources in these sports paid off in terms of maximizing gold medals. However, it also had the consequence of stunting the development of many of China's team sports. Ball sports were not a priority in the strategy, so sports like soccer and basketball suffered, leaving them to play catch-up even now. Chen and Zhang, in their paper detailing China's gold medal strategy, interviewed a senior retired official from China's General Administration of Sport who elaborated more on the impacts of their strategy. In order to carry out the Olympic strategy and effectively enhance China's gold medal performance at the Olympic Games, a number of high investment but slow return sports were strategically cut down by the then sports ministry. This was a structural reconfiguration of the elite sport landscape in China. 3 big balls, football, basketball, and volleyball, were the main objects of cutting down. The rationale was that these sports required very heavy investment, cost much money, but had very limited number of gold medals and medals, and took a very long time to bear visible fruit. Instead, focus was given to small, fast women, water, and agile disciplines. Now, not to confuse you, because I...
Basically, from what I can gather, is China put money into things that would give fast return because the future is shit. Fuck the future. Don't think long term, think short term. Short term gains. Isn't this the problem that China's always had? Isn't this literally why China has the problems that they have right now?
It's
is because they've been thinking in
planned.
the short term?
It's centrally planned.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yay. Top down. Clearly it works.
know the visual in Chen and Zhang's interview.
It doesn't matter that the people are starving and there's genocides and cultural cleansings and shit. That doesn't matter. Gold medals. The Olympics every 4 years. That's what really matters. That's what China really cares about. So disappointing.
Just then throughout a
How
completely
much money?
different set
I
of
wonder how much money China dumps into the Olympic sports.
She says.
She does?
I'm pretty sure.
words. Like, where did fast, water, and agile come from? The best explanation I have for this discrepancy without access to official documents is that it's either a result of different translations or an evolution of the strategy over time. I will say though, small, skilled, difficult women and few is what Chinese netizens use to refer to the 5-word principle, whilst every English source I came across uses small, fast, women, water, and agile instead. So I kind of rolled with the Chinese version, but
That's
if anyone has a definitive answer, please let me know. Coming back to China's gold medal journey though, at this point, we're caught up with the present. China has devised a strategy based off Tian's clustering theory and executed on the 5-word principle. They're now getting their gold medals and they've achieved much of the success they were aiming for. But this is not where the story comes to an end. Far from it, actually. It sounds crazy, but I think China is just getting started. Suffering from success. It's a problem I would love
This
to have,
hand of
but
mine
really
is burning
regrettably, I don't
red.
have it. You know who is facing it though? China. In the Paris Olympics, China's diving team pulled off a sweep and won all 8 gold medals the sport had to offer.
Not
In table
surprising.
tennis, China was so dominant that in 2012, the Olympics changed the format of the sport so that only 2 competitors from each country could enter the singles events. When you're too dominant,
fair.
it's not even about new rules being put in place, but quite simply, there's only a certain amount of gold medals for you to win. No matter how much more China invests in diving and how much they optimize for the sport now, they've already hit the ceiling. There's only 8 gold medals for them there. And China's strategy has evolved as they realized this. They started out by investing in their strong sports and targeting light sports to maximize the chances of winning gold. But now, if China wants to keep growing that medal count, the only way for them to get more is to go after sports they haven't traditionally been good at. Project 119 is an example of such an effort. It was an initiative created after the 2000
number of the
Olympics,
Spartan
and it was a
washout
long-term
that I was
project
thinking of.
initiated to improve China's performance in weaker areas like athletics and swimming, amongst other sports.
Wait,
a lot
no,
of the sports they
he
chose
is
are
in the show.
Who?
There's like one dude. No, he is in the show.
Who?
No, that reminded me. No, he 100% is in the show because the washout guy.
So that's it. There is washouts in the show.
There's a single guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's you get his backstory from a single flashback in the early parts of the season.
Is he in a wheelchair?
No.
Is
He basically wears broken Spartan armor with no helmet.
He's not crippled?
No.
So he's
also
a
medal abundant.
pre-augmentation
Therefore,
washout?
119 is actually 119.
I think he
because
was a
it's
washout out of the Spartan 2 program.
Yeah, that's the bad one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the washouts are people who
he
were
wasn't
crippled by it.
No, he wasn't crippled. He left. So he escaped.
Okay.
And the
So, 'cause
backstory,
that's another thing.
the
So
backstory
washouts-
is John helped him.
Washouts are cut as well. So but then
okay.
a lot of those people who are cut for the program end up on their own type of teams. And some even end up being augmented anyway.
Okay. Well, no. He is like a rebel sort of frenemy guy in the show. It's nothing. Like literally nothing. Like you're trying to connect it back to lore. Don't.
Oh no, I know. I'm just saying they draw on something about the washouts.
Yeah. But it's got nothing to do with disabilities, no.
stands for the number of total gold medals that are available in the sports being targeted. And this year, we saw China making quite the splash in these sports. Pan Zhanle broke the world record for the men's 100-meter freestyle in Paris. And the Chinese team won the 4x100-meter medley relay. This is huge because A, China is not really known in the eyes of the general public to be a big swimming powerhouse.
True.
I mean, just look at how people reacted after Pan won the 100 free. And B, if we look at where the medals come from in Paris, swimming produced 2 gold medals. Badminton, a long-time core sport for China, also contributed 2. Further, swimming yielded 12 total medals, whereas badminton produced 5. Swimming is a sport with more medals to offer, which means more gold up for grabs. And we know China is going to go for it. What I want to shift our attention to now is the debate that's been going on among Chinese people on China's current sports system and what sports will look like for China in the future. China still operates on a largely centralized sports system, and if you recall, this was created decades ago because it was the most effective way to produce elite athletes in a population that wasn't heavily engaged in sports. And China back then was also eager to prove themselves on the world stage. Now, China is very different to what it was like 50 years ago. And this is where people are divided on whether or not China still needs its centralized sports system. It's a very complex issue as it ties into social, political, and economic spheres. So in an attempt to summarize these viewpoints, I will be oversimplifying some parts. Essentially though, you have one side that favors moving away from such a system, and they question whether the funding can be used in places that can benefit more people. Like, instead of investing
I'm so glad she's going into this. Like all of the, and because I was going to say this when she brought it up, and I imagine this is exactly what she's going to say. All the money that you dump into these Spartan sporting programs that China does, put it into schools. Give kids sporting facilities at schools like America does. There's no reason that China shouldn't have a sporting reputation like America. There's no way. There's no explanation for it. There's no need. There's no explanation. It's just kneecapping themselves, and they're kneecapping themselves because of the way that their government is. It's just pathetic. And what can the people do? Oh, please change. Please change government that doesn't listen to me and doesn't give a fuck about me and would redirect floodwaters to save their own house onto my entire village. Like, there's way deeper issues.
Of elite athletes to win gold, can we redirect these funds to encourage the general population to play more sports? And a newer sentiment that's emerging with the side is, well, how much do we care about gold medals anyways? Instead of investing in more niche sports or expanding into a competitive solo sport, could we invest more into the team sports that were neglected in the initial strategy for gold? To summarize more succinctly, this side is asking, is it time to reevaluate our priority of maximizing golds? Is there something that is worth more to the Chinese identity and sense of accomplishment than just the number of gold medals won? Now,
no. Must be best. China number 1. Like, it's it's such a shit attitude as well, right? Because how many people in America, right, celebrate
about
the
the
singular
Olympics?
gold? No, celebrate the singular gold over the basketball team, over the hockey team. All of the American fables from the Olympics, right, are team sports. All of them are team sports. Basketball, ice hockey, right? That big they it has some kind of fucking name where the US beat the Soviets with like 10 seconds to go in the ice hockey. Um just like
I don't know, but they made a movie about it.
that gave the Americans so much national pride. Like if China wants to reignite national pride or even um manipulate national pride in a way that benefits them, team sports are the way to go. You want to invigorate people, make sure the team sports are saying your messages. You're a centralized government. You can do that. You can mandate that these people shill for the Chinese government, as just like Israel does at every opportunity. Make sure you get in your fucking political statements, right? Really, really sort of be nefarious about it. You're the CCP. Do whatever the fuck you want. You can. Who are you going to answer to? The UN?
Now, the other side is saying China
The
still needs a
IOC?
centralized system. First, you can't change a whole culture overnight. Even if you redistribute funding, Chinese society is so geared towards academics that money alone is not going to solve the fact that the environment itself is not conducive to fostering a passion for sports. And
That's
the
a good
Chinese
point.
government has invested in getting the general population to be more active. But even if you put in mandatory hours during school for kids to exercise and do physical activity, as soon as it's over, they're going to go back to studying because their future is overwhelmingly dictated by their academic marks. Second, the centralized system allows kids coming from disadvantaged backgrounds to have access to sports and a way to change their lives. A common example is Chen Hongchan, China's 17-year-old diving prodigy who would have never touched a diving board or become a professional athlete if she wasn't scouted through the system. One Chinese netizen says, with a centralized system, people will complain about wasting taxpayer money, but without such a system, the same people will complain that sport is now only for the rich. People on this side.
Yeah, but this is the same thing that's been going on with Rachel Gunn, right? I've heard this from so many people. Is people like, she made it all this way and stole a spot from somebody. It happened with Laurel Hubbard, the New Zealand trans weightlifter that in 2020. They were like, oh, she stole a spot from an actual woman. They should have done better. Skill issue.
You ever
Like,
just think
I just
Australians aren't good at breakdancing?
it could be that.
Could that be part of the solution to the problem here?
But it's like this whole idea of taking somebody's spot is so disingenuous. I just feel like it's projecting, and it's like you weren't satisfied with this performance that you've got no information about, that you know nothing about, that you watch once every 4 years, and you are like, oh, they stole a spot from somebody. Who did they steal it from? Where were they? Did they try? No, they weren't even in the competition. Where's the complaint? I don't understand. Like yes, a centralized government, you pick it, is only for the rich. These are valid criticisms. As I said before, put the money into the schooling system. You're a communist country, apparently. Even if you're a fascist country, which is my contention, you still have a centralized, top-down, authoritarian state. Utilize it. Why doesn't China have a sporting system like the United States? Why isn't there institutional sports? Why isn't there countrywide sports? Surely China has culture that they can draw on, that sporting culture from before communism, that they can be like, you know what we should do? We should reignite this only Chinese thing that everybody can do, just like American football. Make it soccer. Make it rugby. Make it AFL. I don't give a fuck. It doesn't matter. Something needs to change. I don't know. I think just putting money into the schools is a better idea. It's a great idea. Also, not being authoritarian cunts is generally a good way to foster positive change. But what do I know?
may vary in how much they back the centralized system, but they don't really see a realistic alternative due to various social, cultural, and political factors. There is a lot to this debate. It's certainly not the first time people have brought this up, and interest in this topic has only reignited after the Paris Olympics. This is an ongoing discussion, and it'll continue to evolve as the future unfolds. It's hard to say for sure what China's future may look like, but we can be certain from examining China's past that their climb to the top of the Olympic tally is as calculated of a move as it comes. Tian's clustering theory and China's 5-word principle were core to shaping its elite sports scene today. As China begins to hit that saturation in certain targeted disciplines, the sports they haven't traditionally been good at will become increasingly important in growing their goals. But not everyone agrees with investing so much into goals, as Chinese people have a lot of thoughts on the centralized sports system and also on where they would like the future of Chinese sports to go. I hope this was an insightful video for you all. I had a lot of fun researching this topic, and it helped me forget that the next Summer Olympics won't be back until 2028. That is so long. At least Winter Olympics are coming up. If you enjoyed this video and want to...
There's always stuff. It's interesting because, like, I feel like if China just goes, all right, we're just going to win golds, and let's say they only go for golds and they produce the desired result, and all they get are gold medals. Why would any other country compete? And two, like, the natural ebb and flow of talent happens. America doesn't win every year, and there's a reason for that. Australia doesn't always win the gold medals that they win. Sometimes they win a lot. You know, it's a natural ebb and flow of talent coming in and out of every country. That's the whole point of it. If you're stacking the deck because you just want to win, instead of letting it naturally come to the surface like most countries probably do, it just feels pointless. Right? It's no different to the world that we live in, right? People have dedicated their entire life to amassing as much wealth as humanly possible, leaving nothing for the rest of us. Why bother? Yeah, it's the same thing. Like, why put in the work when all you're gonna get is $7 an hour? You know, it's I feel like it might come to that point. So I guess maybe we'll see China's central planning collapse yet another industry within the country, but we'll see.
You know what's crazy?
Mm.
I was like, I never played Halo Wars. If I want to see how much that is, just to, like, because I know it's like not a great game, but I was like, I want to check it out. It might be like funny to make a video on.
Mm-hmm.
That shit is $20 on Steam.
Seriously?
Yeah. And what's funny here is in the ad, it's advertising free DLC as like being part of the package.
Sounds like you're paying for it.
Yeah, exactly. What do you mean free DLC? This 20.
Are you aware of a CIA psychological profile about you, sir? Would you be interested in hearing what the CIA had to say? This secret study portrays as a brilliant but dangerous megalomaniac who is likely to pursue his own aims in disregard of U.S. interests. He's an uncertain ally. Shall I go on, or would you prefer that I stop, sir?